What's going on, beautiful people? Happy Wednesday. I see the chat is already blowing up. What's going on? What's up? What's up? What's up? Benson, how are you doing? I like your shirt. Family Mastermind.
Yes,
How's
sir.
everything going?
It's going great. It's going really good. Just so many just exciting things happening in the Privy world. I was on a development call earlier today and was with all of our team, and there was like 10 people in this dev call, and they're just cranking, like just like building
Yeah.
so much cool stuff, and it's just really exciting to be part of this team that is not stopping. We're constantly adding in new data sets, new features, optimizing. Like the platform is just getting ready to blow up.
Is there anything secretive that we could pull out information wise today, or is it all kind of like super top secret?
You know, there isn't there, it is kind of top secret, but
Okay.
you know, June 1st is our date to launch our new kind of like portfolio, like long-term, short-term rental engines.
Sure.
So that's kind of the target date. So there's lots of exciting things going on. I wish I could tell you more, but that's about what I
No
got.
worries. I like the secret. It's my job here just to try to like extract as much as I can out. So
hmm
that is all good, but that's exciting. You said June 1st?
June 1st is the target date.
Okay,
Plus or minus, but that's what they're shooting for.
for sure. Well, I love it. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And it's been crazy over here too. Been traveling, got a lot going on, had a sick dog last week. So we have just been cranking, dude. I don't know what's going on right now in the market, but we have been busier than we've been in the last like 6, 7 months, just in the last 2 months combined. So we have a lot going on. We've got some multifamily deals, some private money lending stuff. Agent investors is doing fantastic. It's just been kind of like pieces connecting. So I'm really
Oh yeah.
excited to share that same amount of energy and just appreciation towards this community. We've got a lot of people popping in. Guys, if this is your first show, we appreciate you. If you're watching the replay, and we still appreciate you. But the cool thing about doing this live is that it's an interactive show. We don't have anything scripted. We kind of just go with the flow. But I want to do this in real time so that we can show you guys that there's nothing special here. Benson is so gracious with his time, and he's willing to spend an hour with us every single week, showing us how to use Privy at the highest level possible. And it's good for me also to make sure I'm sharpening the tools of using Privy the most efficient way too. But then also to show you guys that I can step into a market that I've never been in, I've never done a deal in, or maybe I have, but it's somewhere where I don't have as many connections. So the goal here with you guys is to have you interacting, asking questions. If you see a nugget, you hear a nugget, write it down, share it with the community, put it in the comments, because I promise you there's somebody else that would appreciate it, and they're probably willing to do the same for you.
Yep.
So use the comments to collaborate, talk about what markets you're in. All of us here probably have a really good skill set of one or two things. But with that said, there's probably at least one or two things, or if you're like me, many things that you're not good at. So find that one person that's good at the thing that you need help with in the comments. With that said, it being unscripted, we pick markets random every week. So if you guys are willing to interact and engage with us here, please feel free to drop below in the comments what market you want to see us go in today. What's
Well,
up, Rick?
Rick may have some sense here to give us some guidance. It looks like he needs help with Dispo in Chicago. So if there's anybody here who has, buyers lined up in Chicago, like definitely help Rick out. But maybe that's a market we look at. Let's show Rick how to find some buyers.
That's my home. That's my home. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do
Do
it.
you want to roll with the sharing today?
Yeah, I can do that. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. All righty.
Do you have any insight into how people are being effective in Illinois doing wholesale? Like, what's the main strategy there?
Yep.
Because they
So
have the licensing issue.
yeah, so a lot of times the workaround, and I kind of just shoot very straight, very transparent.
hmm
Um, People are bringing agents onto their team. So when that person joins your team, you get access to their MLS database. Now, when you're going in and wholesaling the deal, the catch is with them being a part of your team is that they're the ones that are doing the transaction. Because they have the real estate license, you're utilizing their license to your advantage. The nice thing to that is that obviously you don't need to be licensed. The caveat to it is that they're probably going to take half the commission or half the wholesale fee or whatever it is.
hmm
So What I would advise is that if you are not licensed, this is actually something that I've been talking about a little bit more vocally recently. If you're not licensed, you need to get licensed. I always told everybody on social media and masterminds and stuff, there would come a time where I would sit down with everybody and say very, very wholeheartedly that it is the time to get licensed. That time is now. You do need to be able to get a license to go in and wholesale in some states. So if that's already starting to become a thing in some states, I think it's a fair assumption that there's going to be some regulation that's formed behind wholesaling in the next 6 to 12 months, maybe even just a couple more markets. I would say with full confidence within the next 5 years, half of the country, if not all of the country, will need to have a real estate license to wholesale. So I would highly advise it. Definitely recommend people going and getting it. And then obviously just aligning with a broker that's familiar with wholesaling.
Right. And then there, of course, is kind of the standard approaches, which is double closing, right? Which all you need is transactional funding to do, and there's
Sure.
that transactional funding is plentiful out there.
For sure.
And then there's using entities. An entity is a way of using an LLC and just transferring control of that LLC.
To
Is
the end buyer. And I think that's all like they're workarounds.
Yeah.
I think that the beauty behind it is that there's time. So the reason why I say to get licensed is just because part of what we teach here is to do the double dip. So you can maximize your profits by having the license. Now, all that said, do you need it? And if you don't get it in the next 6 months, is your business going to come falling down? No. There's going to be workarounds even when it is a requirement to have a license to wholesale, to where you could do strategies like Benson just said. What I just advise is always in the route of more protection and just covering your ass. But all that said, it doesn't mean that there's one right way or one wrong way to do it. So let me
And I
share.
guess the point of that is, you guys too, is that like if you want to do deals in Chicago, you can. There's always
Correct.
a way to do it. And honestly, Chicago is one of the top markets in the US. So that little logistical challenge there should not stop you from targeting an area like that, or Oklahoma, or Missouri, or any of those places that have those issues.
For sure.
Actually, Missouri isn't one of them. Missouri is a non-disclosure state. That's a totally different thing. So let's look at Chicago. So Rick was looking for buyers, right? He needs help doing that. And this is kind of like how you would feel comfortable getting in and doing some deals in Chicago. At the same time, find buyers for your buyers list.
Correct.
If
And
you're an
I
agent
actually
and
kind
you're
of
looking
like that
for
we're starting this way.
yeah, it's a little different, right? Um, so when you first log into Privy, you guys, you see that coverage map. Like Chicago has that direct to MLS data. So this is why it's going to be extremely helpful for you to be able to get deep and see those photos, use the comparative market analysis, the before and after, to reach out to buyers and to reach out to agents, and use those CMAs as like, okay, I love the way you guys did the kitchen. I love the way that that big red door looks when you walk up to it. Like using those photos can be very helpful in building that bridge, and that initial bridge and that icebreaker with buyers and agents when you're talking to them.
For sure. And typically we start off with trying to find a buyer to be able to go in and find a deal. However, if Rick already has a deal, Rick, I'm not asking for the address unless you have this thing under contract and you want some help with dispoing it. We'd be more than happy to. If you want to just share kind of the rough area as to where it's at, let us know and let's go through this. Let's find you some buyers. Let's call these agents and see if we can find some connections that we can pass along to you to have you go reach out to and see if their buyers are interested in your deal. So Rick, putting you on the hot spot, but if you wanted to, feel free to drop below where the property is specific. In the meantime, too, Check does have a question here. Hey, Ryan, would you know if we are able to link an API key from Privy directly to our CRM to import the deals?
That is a big no.
Okay.
That is a no, and that is it's a contractual situation. So we're not able to do that because of our contracts with our data partners.
Gotcha. Sorry about that, Check.
Now, one thing that there is a bit of a workaround there, Check, which you can export any list from Privy into a CSV file, and then you can import it into your CRM. So that, or you can, obviously when you're doing your data entry into your CRM, put that information in there manually. And then of course we do have the Privy sharing link that's associated with every single property in the CMA. So you can put that link in your comparative market analysis. So you're just one click away from updated comps and information.
Okay, so it looks like he said Harvey, Illinois, Park Forest, Illinois. So Harvey is like right in here. So Benson, what is the filter that I do to be able to see the surrounding areas outside of Chicago on my filters?
Go into the filter button, and then at the upper left hand corner, you're going to click that check box that says include surrounding areas, and then save it.
Okay. So
yes, you guys, what just happened there was Ryan typed in Chicago, so it put the Chicago boundary, like the actual city of Chicago, and it limited the search to that. So if you want results outside of that, you just check that box and it will do what it just did just now.
Love it. So now I'm going to zoom in because he said Harvey. So my thought process is I see this area right here. I see 59, I see 56. The cool thing is I see 106 right here. Now, if I want to keep zooming in, I want to see what else we can find around here. Now we can start seeing that it gets a little bit closer. So zoom in here. Now, Benson, these are all sold properties, or are these active? Because it looks like these ones on the left are active.
So you got to click that button at the top there. This is fix and flip. And that will switch it over to the sold flips.
And now these are all the sold properties, meaning that these are deals that have actually closed where the ideal thought process is they fixed and flipped it, turned around, made some money. These are end buyers that we could get the realtor's information and the end buyer's information if we wanted to.
100%. Yeah. And you can see there's a little bit of a hot pocket there on the north side of that river, which, you're going to have a better opportunity finding active buyers on that side. But again, this is the whole strategy. Like, I'm curious, Rick, how you chose the area that you're in. If you that's where you live, or this is where like you targeted because it was a high investor activity area. But every one of these closed flips has a buyer associated with it, and it also has an investor friendly agent associated with it who potentially has access to lots of buyers. So you can do it on a one-off basis, or you can use Ryan's strategy, which is figure out who the agent is on these deals and reach out and leverage their network as a disposition strategy.
For sure. And I think that the beautiful piece about this is that he said Harvey. So, I mean, I love that I see that there's areas up here. To start, my first thought process is to take everything in this little pocket right here. If I can find everything that is inside this area of Harvey, Illinois, and I could go in and search this specific property, then I would take all of these relationships. And if I can't find a buyer, I would then move over in this area. Because if they're in the surrounding areas of where you have this deal, most investors that are purchasing right here on the street, odds are they will buy 5 streets down over this way. So if I'm just trying to figure out who buyers are to start, the whole goal is to be able to find a buyer first. So Rick kind of did it a little bit backwards where he has a deal and now he's trying to find a buyer. Rick, sorry to put you on blast here, but I think this is a great learning experience too. The only reason why we want to find a buyer first is because if Rick has this under contract and he needs to turn around and sell it, he's on a time crunch, meaning that we've got to find a buyer before the inspection period is done so that if he can't sell it, he backs out of the deal. Now, the only reason that we don't love this strategy to start is because if you can't get a buyer, backing out is not what you want to do. So Rick just commented, said, my agent provided these leads to me and the numbers look good on Privy as far as investor activity in these areas. So fantastic. Agent brought you the deal. Rick, the only other question I have is, do you have this property under contract or was it sent to you as an address, like as a prospective property, and you're trying to underwrite it and find a buyer first? Because our goal of finding a buyer first is to be able to reverse engineer and use that buyer relationship to be able to go and find deals that are active based on what they're looking for. That's the concept of wholesaling, is that we have a consumer already lined up so we can go in and find the deal. So in this case, if we're just going to go and I'll go through this property to start while we're waiting on Rick to comment back on if he's got this property under contract. But Benson, I want to look at the basic information and kind of go through some of the stuff that maybe we haven't gone through in full detail of line by line here. This is the purchase price or the sold price that it closed at. Property address and zip code. MLS data. This right here is referring to the fact that you have MLS data in Privy. This is the brokerage information and the realtor's information.
Yep.
Now, is this the listing agent or is this the agent that represented the buyer?
This is the listing agent that represented the seller of the property. Now we call them
Yep.
the buyer, but they're always, if a flipper is a buyer and a seller. It just depends
Right.
on when you catch them.
For sure. For
So they
sure.
have to buy it first and then they sell it. So they represented the seller of this who originally bought it. So whoever flipped this house is our target,
For
right?
sure.
Let's not get
And
confused in the jargon of buyer and seller. It's like you want
correct.
flippers.
Correct. So now we're going from there. We want to scroll down and see like some of the comparables, and then we want to see before and after. I always love to start with this when I'm trying to find buyers, and I want to make sure that we're being clear here on like a lot of the stuff because I like how you just said we don't want people to get all mixed up. When we're looking at buyers, we like looking at pictures. When we're looking for deals, we look at the data. So deals equals data, buyers equals pictures. When you're looking at buyers or looking for buyers, the reason we want to see photos is because if I could see before and after, it gives me insight as to what the deal renovation was, but also it gives me the quality of work and what I can picture that they are willing to do in a remodel. Not every time do you get on the phone with the buyer or the agent that represented them and say, tell me about the flips. And they start telling you about the material they use. They don't do that. If I can visualize what the quality of flip is that they're doing, it makes it a lot easier for me to understand what kind of flips that they're willing to take on. Obviously, this one was bought off market. We can see public records. It was bought and sold, or was bought on 12/10/2021. They sold it 11/4/2022. So the other thing is that our filter is back a little bit. It's about 6 months. So this is right at that like borderline of the 6 months back. But the nice thing is that we could see the remodel still. So if we know that they bought this property and it closed, the 170 was 11/4/2022. This was a remodel. So we have the agent that sold the property. We have the information the before and after. Now we can see data. You can see right here, it looks like they added on square footage to the house. It looks like they bought it for 22,000. They sold it for 170. This is one of those kind of unicorn off outliers, is what we'll call it. Is that they bought this at 13% of the ARV. Most of us probably aren't getting properties at 13% of ARV. But the nice thing is, though, is that we still know that this person is willing to buy it, renovate it, and sell it. So 22,000, they bought it, they sold it for 170, they made 148. We can see construction time, we can see the hold time, we can see the days on market. We can see they put it from a 3 bedroom to a four bedroom, from a 1 bathroom to a 2 bathroom. They really did go above and beyond on this property. Now, it would have been really cool to see the before and after photos, but all that said, it's still cool to see that this is a buyer that went in, renovated the property. I probably would make a little bit of a mental note calling them that this isn't one that I would expect to be a great buyer just because of the numbers that they bought at. Benson, what are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't, you know, deprioritize this buyer because they happen to get a really good deal on this one property. Like this is that unicorn thing that every buyer would have taken the opportunity to get this if they had that in front of them. So
For
I don't
sure.
I don't immediately say, these guys won't work because they're buying too low. I'm thinking, okay, well, we know they're buying. So if I have got 30 people to call, well, yeah, I'm going to call the one that would bought off the MLS. I'm going to call the one that
For
paid
sure.
a higher percentage first.
Sure.
If I still have time in my day, I would call this buyer. But
Absolutely.
everyone is worthy of a call. It's just that sometimes you only have 30 minutes to call before you got to go and pick the kids up at work or before you got to take the dog to the vet. Like there are those things that you have to handle. And so, yeah, maybe these ones would be at the end of my list. But so I would call agents or buyers that I knew were willing to buy from the MLS and
Mhm.
ones that were buying at a higher percentage of ARV first.
And I love that. I think that's the most important point that I was trying to get across there is that you don't want to forget this person because they are still a buyer. They bought a property. We do want to make some mental notes, and I'm just kind of speaking out loud what my thought process is. The data. If I could see that I know they bought it at that price, 13%, as long as they're not expecting that kind of number on every deal, which most investors don't, just be mindful going into this conversation. It's not your normal conversation. So that doesn't mean they're not good buyers. That doesn't mean it's not someone I would contact. I would just, like Benson said, prioritize those that have bought off the MLS or those that buy at higher percentages to start. With that said, though, this is still someone, and we're not allowed from YouTube to give out people's information. So what you can do super easily is take this, click that, right click, search Google, it'll pop up. It's not that hard. We'll make a few phone calls. I just think we want to make a call to a different buyer. So Now, I went through and I clicked right in the heart. That was where I started off, and this was me not using Privy the most efficiently. I did this because my eyes just optically went to the middle. Whereas if I went here on the left-hand side, the cool thing about how it's sorted is actually showing sold date most recent. So 264, Benson, how do I see where this one is on the map? Is there a way I could hover over it, or does it just like that?
Yeah, yeah, they're popping up on the map over there. They're kind of like getting a little bit larger. Can you see that?
Sure. Yeah, I see that. So in like the bottom right corner right here, that's that 264.
Hmm.
So Benson, if there was a way that I wanted just to draw this out, how would I use a tool like that on Privy to do that?
Upper right hand corner of the map, there's a grayed out pencil. When you
This
mouse
right here?
over it, yep, you click it, and then it turns the hair. There you go, and it turns the mouse into crosshairs, and then you click and hold, and then you can isolate that area.
So now I just want to see all of these that have sold in this specific little pocket of Harvey. And now on this side, still going by the date, we see 12/1/2022. We see 11/4/2022, which is at 170. We see this one. And so maybe this area does have properties that sell that cheap. I mean, there you go. Rick, just for further question, what price range do you have this one in the ballpark in right now? Just to kind of give us an idea as to what we're working with. Patricia also just asked a question. How far out does it go when you use the filter for surrounding areas? Do you
It
mean by
goes
date
forever.
or for, yeah, I was gonna say like there's
Well, it goes in to the end of the country, like wherever the data goes is where it goes to, but it's only going to show you what's on the map, right? So whatever you see on the map view is what it puts on the left-hand side. So if you zoom out, it'll do more, but then at some point it will show just the clusters, right? So if you've got less than 300 properties on the map, it'll show you the individual houses, but as you zoom out, it will break up and it'll start turning into those blue bubbles.
Mhm. And so this right here, Benson, it looks like this little pocket, a lot of the deals that have been bought and sold are from like 2022, like end of the year. So I don't necessarily think that those are terrible buyers to call because they're buying at the end of the year when the market was still going in the wrong direction. So I know that they're active buyers, but would you recommend I go and look to the right or north, or do you recommend calling the people from 2022? What does your dispo process usually look like?
I would call them because
Okay.
here's the thing. These are the houses that it's sold.
Hmm.
We don't know if they already bought again and are working on a project right now and right down the street. Like if they're active, they're active. So I wouldn't not call these people. Um,
Absolutely.
the timing, if it's brand new, that timing is I think is there's a window there where your calls are more relevant when you're calling them on a deal they just closed, and you're gonna be like, hey, I saw you just close that deal, that's why I'm calling. Whereas if you call somebody who closed a deal in December, the 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 conversation doesn't flow as well. Like you can't be, hey, I saw you close that deal. Like they're like, well, what took so long? Why are you calling me now?
Right, right.
Right.
And that's
So
the only
there's something
thing
about the timing. I don't know what it is, but
for
that
sure.
conversation goes really well when it's like, congratulations on that deal you just closed.
It makes it more real, and it's real time. It's when you're catching somebody after they sell the house, it's fantastic. You call them now, they're gonna be like, do you live like 6 months in the past always, or like where'd you get my info? It's gonna be a little bit harder of a combo. But all that said, I kind of want to show everybody too, we don't want to encourage like any limiting beliefs. This one right here, I went and I just found that this one was the most recent sold in that like little pocket. 12/1/2022. From the photos, it looks like nice little remodel. The listing agent here that represented the person that sold it, which they were also the buyer. Now in this case, we're going to scroll down, public records, can see what kind of remodel was done here. Looks like, I don't know if they added 40 square feet or if they just maybe didn't have it right the first time. But this is one that I think we just go ahead and give them a shout. So now, Benson, if I am not mistaken, I'll confirm this in just a second with you.
Mhm.
Can't see my screen. Perfect. Okay. So all I did, guys, was I just copied this right here. I'm copying that, posting it into Google, and I'm hitting search. So now all that's going to pop up, my very first thing I see is starwoodrealestate.com. seems pretty straightforward. That's a company page. I can go the step further, which is there's realtor.com, HomeSnap, Zillow, Rate My Agent. All these different sites will have numbers to go off of. So I just want to make sure. Not seeing that
Yeah,
number.
MB, Ryan's looking at a very specific niche. So you're probably seeing more current homes because you're not in that little circle he drew. So that's why he's seeing older homes at the top, is because that particular niche doesn't have more recent sales.
Correct. 402. Kidoki. Let's call this guy. I'm going to butcher this.
Hi, you've reached Nosheen Ward with Starwood Real Estate. I am not able to come to my phone right now, but if this is a real estate question or inquiry, please email info@starwoodre.com for a quicker response. That's info@star.
Come on. And in this case, I will leave a voicemail. Hey, my name is Ryan. Just working on a couple properties out in Illinois. We got one out in the Harvey area. Just trying to see if you have any buyers that are interested. I see that you closed a property in the area in the last 6 months. So just reaching out, seeing if you had anybody that'd be interested. Give me a shout back. My number is 480-612. So what I did there was build up some hype. I was able to identify that I have a potential property. And the goal here, and this was a little bit of a different voicemail that I left. It was just trying to show you guys that, again, one, there's no script. Two, the goal here is to get a call back. If you were to go in and say, hey, I have 123 Main Street, do you want to buy it? That's kind of an awkward conversation that doesn't flow well. That's not what realtors are used to. They're used to having clients. So in this case, if I'm going to call and say, hey, I have a potential property available, want to see if you have a buyer interested. I see that you just did a deal in the area in the last 6 months. That's a good flow and a good conversation starter. So the goal from there is to get them on the phone, be able to qualify. The minute I get that call back, Rick, if you don't mind, just send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. The minute I get any conversation, I will pass that whole thing along to you. I don't need to be involved in that transaction. But the goal here is to be able to show you guys that when we contact these agents, when they have sold data, the difference versus going direct to the buyer versus going to the agent is that the agent might have more than one client. So in this case, the person that I'm reaching out to, Nosheen Ward, they are already showing through data that they have a deal they did. So if they are showing that they've done a deal already in this area where it was for a flipper, the odds of them having that same flipper or another flipper interested in the property that Rick has, that's the goal. Patricia said, when you speak to the agent, do you offer her 50-50 right away if she provides the buyer? Absolutely not. I want to start the conversation by saying, hey, I have a potential property. Here's what I'm trying to do. So we have a few strategies. I fix and flip. I hold rentals. Part of our exit strategy that we do is wholesaling. So in this case, we're trying to get some feelers out there to see what we can exactly do. I'm leaning towards wholesaling. It's an easier route, just free up some capital. Are you familiar with that? The agent would say yes or no. Most agents will say no. Okay, sounds good. No worries. Part of our process is we can just assign our rights in the contract. What I'd be more than happy to do is if we can go in and work something out, I could pay you a fee for bringing in the buyer. Just knowing that, and this isn't something I would say to them, but just know that on your side, the way realtors are going to think about it is 3%, 2.5% to 3%. So if it's a $300,000 deal, if you're offering them $1,000 and they're bringing a buyer for a $300,000 deal, in their head, the math is not mathing. Okay. The math is in their head $9,000. So if they are expecting a $9,000 payday and you're sitting there saying, I'll give you $1,000, absolutely not. If it's a $10,000 assignment and you're willing to split it 50-50, they take 5K, you take 5K. That's how you set up a win. So do I give it up all the time? No. Do I make sure I understand what they're thinking and expecting? Yes. If it's something that's still going to be insulting and less than what they expect, I might as well make sure they understand I'm only making 50% of that. The benefit of going 50-50 in an assignment as opposed to commission is that the assignment fee is not ran through their brokerage. So there's a lot of stuff that you're going to be educating and walking the agent through the process with that you got to make sure they understand. The benefit here is that it's not through the brokerage. It's a cash transaction. You're building relationship with the agent, not their buyer. So any deal you get, you bring it back to the agent, not to their buyer. Don't go around them. So you're creating a win-win between you and the agent. It's a relationship and it's business. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's also helpful to know too, like you said, what their expectation is, and you can figure that out with just a couple, like a conversation. a lot of agents are really proactive and are searching for off-market leads for their clients. Like they're out there and they're pulling lists of absentee owners and they're pulling lists of foreclosures and they're doing some outreach. And those agents understand that they're not going to make any money on the acquisition. They know that their money's going to be made on the back end. So just fill out your agent a bit to see where their head is with that scenario, because you may come across an agent who has no expectation of getting any money up front because they're thinking, I'm going to make my money when I list the property in the back end after the property's been renovated. So it's just a bit of a feeler process. So don't negotiate against yourself and offer too much too early. Just
Correct.
dig a little bit and figure out what their motivation is.
And you also don't know until you kind of get on the phone with them. You got to figure out exactly what helps them out. A lot of times you'd be surprised, but like Benson said, where they're compensated on like the back end of the property being flipped, that means that you throwing them extra money is just icing on the cake. If they are not expecting commission or not expecting anything out of it to begin with, and you give them $1,000, $2,500, $5,000, that's value that you're adding to them that they had no expectation for. Now, if they have the expectation for money up front, different conversation, just be fair. So this is a beautiful example though. Rick, hopefully this helps out. What I'd recommend, if you do not have Privy already, get it, but then jump in here. All we did was type in Chicago. I filtered it out by surrounding areas. I zoomed in on Harvey specific. We see Phoenix, Arizona moved to Harvey, Illinois. So Phoenix is right here, but Harvey's right here. These buyers that are right in this area, you have so much potential to go and build relationships with. So for those that are watching that maybe haven't seen Privy before, every single one of these is a sold transaction that was investor activity related. So that blue line on that side shows that it was done as an investment deal. I'm going to click a random one just going through 305.
The blue, actually, Ryan, that indicates that it was
MLS
sold
data
on the MLS. Right.
Correct. I'm sorry about
So
that.
there are some off-market sales as well, and those will have a little silver line. So it's just a way to be looking at the map and kind of identifying
MLS.
the sources.
So the thing that I liked about that too, I realized as soon as I clicked on it, that 305, this random one, scroll down. The beauty behind this is that you can see what percentage of ARV they're buying at. A lot of times, and I call this lazy wholesaling. People say 70% minus repairs, 40% minus repairs, whatever it is that's going to make you feel like it's easier to go and run numbers. If it's easier, it's probably not worth it. But just as a reference point, it's a different conversation. 51% of ARV gives you that number to know this person's willing to buy properties at 51%. Is 51% desirable? No. But can you take common sense and look at this property and say this was probably a new build and this right here, or it's not the same house, but if I was looking at this, I'd say this is a new build. If I look at this one right here, this is still a beautiful house. So now I'm going to scroll up. Look at this. I mean, this is gorgeous. For a 1974 house, they did a phenomenal job remodeling this. Someone went to the T on making sure that this was done right, all the bells and whistles, especially for these older homes, like 1970s, to have this kind of texture and like design. You got to have an eye for it, and you have to be experienced with doing flips. Love what they did.
Yeah,
but
it came out great.
All of these right here are buyer relationships, Rick. So make sure you're reaching out to every single one of these. And then once you have these relationships, the funny thing is that while you're trying to find a buyer for a deal you have right now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be qualifying them out as a buyer in general. Because if you are coming across deals, whether this was luck or this was just normal business for you, Rick, I would say that it's a fair assumption you're probably going to get more deals sent to you in this area. If a realtor's bringing you deals in Harvey, that realtor probably has more connections in Harvey. So if you could build relationships with buyers all in the surrounding area, go back to that agent and say, hey, I have buyers. I am a buyer. I'm looking for what buyer 1 said, what buyer 2 said, what buyer 3 said, what buyer 4 said. If you can make sure that you're having all qualified buyers telling you their buy boxes when you're going and looking for these, whether it's on your own search or from realtors helping you out and searching for you, the goal is that you could go in and get as many offers out as possible and as many relationships formed in a day as possible too. I love it.
Yep. One thing I want to mention here too is that, we were kind of looking at those on a one-off basis. There's a button there at the top, right underneath where it says investor activity. It says download. If you click that download button, and you can actually export all of these buyers into a CSV file, and that will give you the subject property address. It gives you the buyer's information. It also gives you the link for the the comparative market analysis, and you can take all that information and skip trace it. So you can really do this on scale if you are looking that way. But honestly, I don't think the searching for buyers is something you should do on scale. Like, it really is kind of a relationship type thing. So it's not like you're going to just text blast to 50 people all at once, or you're going to send a mail or to 100 people. Like,
Right.
get on the phone and talk to them. That's how you build a good buyers list.
And
You can
also
have a list of buyers, but it doesn't mean they're going to buy anything from you. The people that are going to buy stuff from you are the ones that know, like, and trust you. And you
And I was
can't
just
do
going to
that
say
through
too,
text.
Benson, a lot of people here are newer. A lot of people haven't done their first deal. A lot of people haven't done, if you're even experienced, you've done a couple deals. The odds are most people here haven't done more than 25 deals. So if you haven't done more than 25 deals, what benefit are you doing to yourself and to your community if you're trying to mass text and mass call and mass offer all these things when you don't even know? Now, I'm very, very much towards the side of making sure you understand that it takes time and through trial and error, you're going to figure things out. But if you're going out and trying to download all this and text, this isn't terrible, 237. But 237, unless you're just very analytical and detailed and like to have everything organized, I don't see the value as opposed to going in like this and just drawing the line and calling. Can you guys call 6, 7, 8 people in a day? I feel very confident that I can challenge every single one of us here to call 8 people in a day. So 8 people seems a lot more attainable. It seems a lot more realistic. It's a lot less stressful. And so when we're getting started and there's a learning curve, the value behind going and making mistakes is very, very crucial. And I want everyone to understand what I'm saying. When I'm telling you to go make mistakes, you're going to make mistakes regardless. So would you rather make a mistake on a text that you sent out to 237 people? Or would you rather make a mistake on a phone call with one person that you never have to talk to again? And more importantly, did that lead cost you anything? No. The data is here. Yes, you pay for Privy, but Privy has thousands of opportunities to go through. So if you make a mistake on one property or one phone call, that's called growth. That's called perspective. All that we go off of as humans is perspective and experiences. And it's funny because I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and it's comparison. Comparison, I actually have a weird belief. Comparison is not bad. Comparison is all us as humans have as human nature to go off of. So if all you can do is comparison, now it's called perspective. Comparison is going from call 1 versus call 2. Comparison is looking at yourself right now and not comparing yourself to the person next to you. It's comparing yourself to where you were 6 months ago. Where were you yesterday versus today? Where are you yesterday versus today versus tomorrow versus 6 months versus a year? If you can understand and put these pieces together, the rest of it will all start to blend together and make sense. I'm telling you to make phone calls, have conversations, be authentic, make mistakes, probably say that one 5 more times, and then submit offers. That's all this is. The rest of it, through the right relationships, through the right offers, through making the right mistakes and having the right mentors and support system around us, that's what leads to the best opportunities. And I shared with everybody, this was about like a month ago. We just closed on this deal that we're going to make over $150,000 on from an agent relationship that took 7 months. 7 months of nurturing. How many of you are willing to work a relationship for 7 months with the potential of getting a check? If I were to tell you that you'd get paid X amount of dollars at the end of it, every single person would be lined up. But the beauty behind this strategy is the one-to-many of relationships through agents. It's the efficiency of going and submitting offers, which is the best green time activity you could be doing. And then the benefit behind it all is that you have control of the time that you could do whatever you want with. So you could go and do 3 deals a month and make 10K per deal, 30K total gross. Maybe you got some overhead, but maybe you're 25K net. You could do that on your own. You could scale this business to 50 deals in a month, and you could have a whole big operation and team and do this nationwide. And you might make more money, you might make a little bit less money. It's all about what you're trying to do. So the beauty behind this strategy, and all starting with the foundation of agent investors and Privy, this can be the best life-changing opportunity for all of you. The reason Benson and I get up here and get all excited and talk about it isn't just because we want to pour an hour into you guys every week with the hopes you guys join our communities. It's because we get excited through passion and experience, knowing what this opportunity is for all of us, ourselves included. Benson does Privy and does deals. I use Privy and I do deals, and I do deals in other markets. Between the two of us and what we have in experience, we're trying to go out here and provide as much value to you guys so that you can go and take action and just start going and providing value to the communities around you. What I was able to get through information and community and mentorships that I invested into was the relationship with Benson. It was being able to be inside community and launching my own community and being able to get the perspective of what else is out there. Every single one of us could do this. I'm off my soapbox. Let's make a call.
How are you organizing your deal flow, Ryan? Do you have a CRM? Are you organize them in the folders inside of Privy, or do you have just your
Great
team
question.
do it?
Yeah,
Like
so the
Patricia's
team goes
asking, like,
through
how are you following up? That's like, okay, yeah, you probably have a systematic approach to follow up, right?
for sure. So we're following up through we actually had Podio for like the last like 3 years, and it wasn't terrible. I had a guy on the team that built out an incredible system for us. But Podio, I just always kind of had some glitches. So we recently transitioned to high level. We use that for everything. It's from texting to email to calling to contracts to even marketing for all of our stuff that we do. So yeah, everything we run through is high level depending on which category. And Patricia, I know you're an agent investor, so what I'd recommend is the tiers videos. Make sure to hop in our call today, this afternoon after this one too, where we can go through a little bit more in depth. But essentially, we categorize our realtors by tiers. So it's unrealistic and not even imagined possible that you could go in and contact. We have like 3,700 realtors. I can't expect my team to keep in contact and circulation 3,700 realtors every single day, every single week, every single month. So what we do is we classify them by tiers, where if they're like a VIP agent, we're in contact with them at least once or twice a week. If it is somebody that we've done a couple deals with in the past, we're going to follow up with them once every week, 2 weeks. If it's someone that we haven't really done that many deals with, or potential, once every month, once every 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. And then we've got like a category of people that we just follow up with like once in a blue moon.
Lennon asks, does this work for wholesaling?
Oh, absolutely. This is all we're doing. That's the entire. That is the entire game, Lennon. That is literally like line by line what we're doing here. We get properties under contract. We take that contract through equitable interest and we transition, which is assignment, our rights to an end buyer, and we make a fee. There's no difference in drop shipping. There's no difference in sneakerheads that go and buy a pair of Jordans for $100 and they sell it for $150. We just do it at a much bigger scale virtually with houses. You can get a property under contract for $100,000. You can assign that contract out for $110 and make a $10,000 assignment fee. What we specialize in is using our real estate license. So on that $100,000 deal, if it's a 3% commission I get as the realtor, I would get a $3,000 assignment on top of a $10,000, or sorry, a $3,000 commission on top of a $10,000 assignment. So being a realtor, we can get $13,000 payday as opposed to $10,000. As for you, if you're not licensed, wholesaling, you'd make $10,000 on that example. There is so much money in the world circulating at all times. Wholesaling is what I found is the easiest accessible way to get income the fastest. But all that said, there is no such thing as a get rich quick scheme. What I can say is that this is 100% legal, and the opportunity and getting your foot in the door to real estate investing, the best way to do so is through wholesaling.
Now, for those of you who are thinking, well, I don't want to be a wholesaler, or I don't wholesale, I'm a landlord or I'm a flipper. Like what we're showing you guys, aside from the building of buyers lists, like the whole process of finding and analyzing deals is almost exactly the same, whether you're going to wholesale it, whether you're going to keep it as a rental, whether you're going to flip it. Like you still have to pull comps, you still have to analyze it, you still need leads, you still need to be able to determine if what the after repair value is. Like all that stuff is the same. But what's different is what you do with it after you get it under contract. That's where those 3 or 4 different business models diverge, is once it's under contract. Once it's under contract, the wholesaler goes into marketing mode. You're going to be reaching out to your buyers, and you're going to be building a marketing email, and you're going to put your comps in there, and you're going to start putting that out for the disposition. But if you were a flipper, well, it's just a different path. At that point, you're putting together your loan docs, and you're lining up the wire, or you're getting your crew together to start planning out the demo and what kind of construction is going to be in there. If you're a landlord, you're putting together your loan docs. You're talking with your lender. You're talking about, okay, what do we need to do to this house to get it rental grade ready? Maybe you go in there and you clean it up, or maybe you're going to do a light rehab. But the whole process of finding and analyzing the deal is almost exactly the same. You guys, and that's what's so cool about Privy, is that it's exit strategy agnostic. I made that term up. It means you do with those deals what you want. What we do well is we find deeply discounted deals. And the easiest way to find a discounted deal is to search for properties in areas that where all that red was at. All of those renovated houses turn unrenovated homes into deals, as long as they're priced appropriately for their as-is condition. So
Mhm.
this is why we target those high investor activity areas. There's so many benefits to it, like building a buyer's list, but also you know what the ARVs are. Like if you search for properties in areas where no one's flipping, you can't determine ARV because ARV is after repair value. If you don't have repaired properties, you can't determine the after repair value of an unrenovated home, which is why you
Mhm.
shouldn't be looking in areas where those red properties aren't at. You need to be in those high investor activity areas. That's what teaches you what a deal is. That's when you can learn what the percentage of ARV is based off of what other investors have already done. That education is not available anywhere. Like Ryan is one of the best coaches on the planet, but he can't tell you what a deal is in Chicago versus Philadelphia versus Phoenix. We probably could in Phoenix because that's his backyard. But this is why he's very specialized, and he does have a team. But this is the education of what a deal is comes from the data and comes from Privy. So if you're not a Privy user, you get signed up. We have a 30-day challenge going on right now. Many of you are probably participating in it, and it just launched on Monday. So we're going to have over the next 30 days, we're going to be doing more and more training. We're going to be doing training. We have a whole leaderboard. We're giving points for taking action. So if you write an offer on a property, we'll give you 1 point. You get a property under contract, you get 20 points. If you close a deal, you get 100 points. We track all of that on a leaderboard. And then once at the end of the 30 days, we look at who the winners are and they get prizes. We've got a cash prize. Last time Ryan was a participant in the prize category, and so it's just a really fun way of like putting some structure around all the things that you should be doing in your business anyway, but making it more fun and building a community around it. So
Absolutely.
get signed up for Privy, and then you can take part in the challenge for free. It's just a really fun way of taking what it is we're teaching you and putting it in practice.
For sure. And also too, one point, like, I'm always big to emphasize, like, make sure you understand it could take 6 months plus to getting your first deal. The next piece to it too is understanding what the secret sauce is. There is no such thing as the secret sauce. The skill set, which is the fundamental piece to this all, is finding discounted properties. The thing that will make you untouchable and give you that confidence that makes you the best real estate investor. It's what Benson just said a minute ago. If you don't want to wholesale, you don't have to wholesale. But what makes you a good investor? This is what I always say is the hardest part of being a realtor is to find a client. The hardest part of being the investor is to find the deal. So a deal is a discounted property where the numbers make sense for you as the investor. Some people might be crazy and want a 2 to 3% return. A deal to them is relative because that's not a deal to me. But if that's a deal to you or to your buyer, congratulations, you're a real estate investor. You could wholesale to them. You could buy and hold, you could fix and flip, you could go creative finance, you could develop private money lending, traditional real estate, the list goes on. The beauty behind it all and what it comes down to is how good of a deal finder are you? When you find the ability to get discounted properties, the ball's in your court, and now you've got multiple exit strategies. That's what makes the most powerful investor, in my opinion. So what we're doing and showing here, I see a comment here about, is the training recorded? Absolutely. This is on YouTube. This is on Benson's LinkedIn, social media sites, everything. This is all over the internet. Go back, watch this, take notes. If you have questions, join the Discord, join the Facebook groups. That's what this is all about. It's building community. What we're trying to show people here is how to get their very first deal if you haven't already, or if you're at the point where you've done a couple deals, let's show you how to add another tool to the tool belt. There was a question here. Lennon asked, wholesale with real estate agents. I've never done it. Need to learn more about how to do that. Thanks. This is exactly what I teach. So I don't like getting up on these like lives and stuff and trying to promote and all that. But at the end of the day too, I understand I'm doing a disservice if I don't talk about it. So when it comes to the software, Privy is the best out there. When it comes to coaching anything with what I say on market deals or agents, I would say with full confidence, I think we're pretty good. So when it comes to what we do at Agent Investors, we teach agents how to wholesale. We teach investors how to work with agents. There's this weird gap that needs to be bridged here that I don't know why, for whatever reason, with agents having the hardest part for them finding a client and most investors not being licensed, why the two wouldn't have this marriage. So agents and investors together, the reason as to why I fell into it was through failure. As much as I want to get up here and say, aha, I had this all figured out, I invested tens of thousands of dollars into mentorships and communities and all these masterminds and whatnot. And I actually just threw myself to the wall and figured a bunch of stuff out through trial and error. And I realized direct to seller wasn't all fine and dandy. Through sales skills, marketing budget, team, overhead, office building, taxes, before it was all said and done, I was a 15% profit margin at best. And that was at best. So I ran out of money. This strategy came to me through one of my buddies recommending me just calling a few agents. That's what he was doing at the time. I ended up getting a deal for 30K, never looked back. Cost me $0 in marketing. I've replicated it. We've made over $3 million with this strategy in the last few years. It has been unbelievable. It's been a blessing. I say that with extreme humility through trial and error, but also because I need to get on top of the mountain and scream for every single one of you watching this, that if you're not working with agents or doing MLS deals, first off, I'll ask you a very hard question. Are you profitable? The second thing is, if you're looking at this strategy, it's probably for a reason. If you're new to this strategy, it's probably for a reason. Whether it's religious, spirituality, or whatever you believe, you're here for a reason. So if you're watching this, let's take action. Let's sign up for Privy. Let's get into Ben's challenge. The challenge changes lives. Part of what we were actually talking about before this, and I got to go like very tip of the iceberg because we don't have it figured out. But we're going to put together some kind of plan here, and there's going to be a challenge where we're going to help someone one-on-one get their very first deal. I'll make the calls for you. I will help you with the paperwork. I will sell the damn deal for you. I'll give you all the money. I want nothing to do with it. I want proof of concept to where other people could not just see me and my team close deals. Let's show somebody else in the community doing deals. So, I mean, if it's something you guys would be interested in, blow up our social media pages. Let us know. Give us some ideas because that's in the works. We're going to get some stuff finalized. Benson's got his hands full with the challenge, but we'll find a way to throw that in there for everybody else because there's a need for this, and this strategy is a blessing. And I think it's a shame that not many people are blowing this strategy up at the moment.
Absolutely. He just laid it out, you guys. Like, can you find deals off market? Absolutely. Is that the least expensive? Are you going to spend the least amount of time doing it? Are you going to have the least amount of headache? Are you going to find deals faster there? No, to all of those. So this process is one of the easiest ways to get to your first deal. It's the least amount of time. It's going to be the least expensive to do it. And you don't have to be an expert, right? On the other side of the fence, you got to be a really good salesperson. You have to know how to do marketing. You have to have the bandwidth and all the follow-up. The follow-up is one of the big killers because people are always chasing that shiny object that's right in front of them. And they forget about the deal that they called on, that buyer who they called, who they have to touch 10, 12, 15 times to get a deal under contract. Most people don't have the ability to take it that far, and they give up before it even happens. So why even put yourself in that situation? Just do this approach where you're doing on market, using agents, using Privy. It's going to be the quickest path to success. It's going to be the least amount of cost. And I promise you, it's going to be way more fulfilling than banging your head against the wall trying to call people who don't want to talk with you.
And also, like I said, there's a learning curve, right? Like a lot of times people don't talk about it in depth as to it could take you 6 months or more to get your first deal. The number one rule of small business is to stay in business. And I am all for betting on yourself. I don't operate out of spite or fear or anything like that. But what I would encourage for every single one of you is that if you're on the fence and you're trying to figure things out, make mistakes and understand, have awareness that the learning curve is going to be hard. That is what takes as long as it does for most people, is because if you've even bought a house before, it's to live in. If you're a brand new investor, you haven't wholesaled. You don't know what an assignment is. You don't know your rights or terms or contracts or what escrow even is. I understand all of that. So what you need to do is just slow it down. Let's get money in your pocket before we start worrying about taking more out. If you're going to invest into a mentorship or a software or something that's a tool that will help you, it's a different conversation. And even then, me as somebody that teaches and educates would challenge you to say, if you don't have the money, don't spend it. Find a JV partner, find a way to get your foot in the door, then worry about the softwares and investments. What you need to do is get the proof of concept, which could come easier through investing into yourself and education. But once you get that money, you put it all back in your pocket, you repay yourself. Now you're back to level one. The beauty behind once you've done deal number one is that the ball is in your court and you could choose what to do with it. Do you go and invest into a new mentorship and learn a new strategy? Do you put that money into marketing? Do you go pay off debt? Do you go and put that money into a trip or an experience or something? You have all the options on the table. But the point is before you could do any of those things, you need money in your bank account. So that's what this comes down to. Take action, make mistakes. This episode today, I feel like was very good. It was very intentional. It was meant to happen this way for a reason. Shout out to Rick. Appreciate you hopping in at the very beginning and throwing that deal out there. As soon as we get a response from a realtor, I will let you know. But also, I feel like we gave you some good blueprints. If I was someone that was watching this, that was trying to figure out how to provide value to somebody that had a deal like Rick, I might take the initiative of doing exactly what Benson and I just did. Get a realtor on the phone that has a buyer, and maybe look up Rick, who is just in the chat, to see if there's a way that I could bring a buyer to him. Not that I'm telling you guys what to do. However, if there is a way that you could do that, you could probably make some money. So
I want to make a comment too before we sign off.
Please.
The whole proof of concept thing, I want to make clear that this isn't the proof of concept that this works. It's the proof of concept is whether you work in the whole system. That's what we're trying to get at, you guys, is that this works. People are making millions of dollars. We've proven that this concept works. We've proven that this business model works. The proof is for you in yourself to see whether or not you have what it takes to make it work in your business, right? All you got to do is just duplicate what we just did, and then do it again and do it again. And we're going to show you next time on how to find active deals. Or if you're already a Privy user, you know that we've got tons and tons of training around how to find active deals you can buy using our algorithm. But the proof of concept is, can you prove to yourself that you have what it takes to do the things you're supposed to do and take action? That's what you're trying to prove, is to prove to yourself that you have what it takes.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Patricia, you're awesome. One agent just responded. She's sending me a contract to sign on one that I submitted today. So we're talking about
Congrats,
action being
Patricia.
taken. Patricia, if you're in Privy, make sure to document that in the challenge so you get some points for that. But guys, if you have any questions or anything, make sure to drop the comments below. We'll get back to them if we aren't able to get to it live. Follow us on Instagram, follow the Discord, Facebook groups, all the social media sites. The challenge is something I would highly advise being in. Shout out to Josh. He was the winner of the Agent Investors course from this last challenge. Guys, if you have any questions, let us know. We're here to help you out. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And we will see you guys next week. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.